Let's bring in Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy, it is a big recruiting weekend for the Dogs. Some big visitors on this visitor list checking out UT Martin for a fun night game between the hedges. Who are you most excited to see? Who should Georgia fans be most excited to see this weekend, man?
I think the first name you have to mention is Elijah Griffin, big 5-star out of Savannah. He'll be up this way the Friday night to play a game, and then he'll stick around and go over to Georgia and watch Georgia play. That's a guy that, defensive line has been a big position at Georgia. He's one of the best, to come through here, come through the stadium in a while. So I think that's one that I got my eye on for sure.
Rusty, you got a list up on DawgsHQ.com. What's the storyline for you?
Well, it obviously Jeremy hit it on the head there. I mean, you got to start with Elijah Griffin because it's just you can't miss on players that are top 2 or 3 in the country, specifically defensive linemen like that, and his body type are just hard to find. When you look at him, Georgia offered real early. You see that frame. He's at 6'4.5", 270 pounds. I mean, he is. I don't know that Georgia can make a 5 tech better than him, and that's the kind of guy they're looking for. But Zayden Walker is another top player, 5-star player in the country from Schley County. He'll be in town this weekend, and his half brother Jalewis Solomon just committed to Auburn. He's taken visits to Miami recently, so it's not a slam dunk with him. But I know the Georgia staff and some people, I talk with inside that building think that Zayden Walker is an absolute can't miss. Got to sign him in this class. So both of those young men right now are expected to be in town. It's not one of those crazy deep lists, but it's still anytime you have a couple of 5-stars and then in-state kids and you get a chance to showcase yourself and spend some time with those guys, you got to take advantage of every opportunity.
What's the biggest hurdle for Georgia right now as South Carolina looks like they're in the lead according to On3's RPM?
He's very close with Jeremy. Is it the young man that's at Brunswick that's committed to
Michael Smith?
Yeah. Yep. Calvary, the tight end it's in Savannah. Yes.
Yeah.
They're really close. And even though they don't go to the same school, they're in the same town. And, every time Michael Smith went over there for a visit, it seemed like Elijah Griffin was with him. So, you look at him and how tight those guys are. So that's kind of, it's not far either from Savannah as well to Columbia. So he's been over there quite a bit. And I think, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, that last weekend of July that kind of you start kids start tipping their hand a little bit. Well, he went to South Carolina. He didn't show up in Athens. So it kind of tells you, this is time to get him back on campus and take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think, I talked with him a couple of weeks ago just about South Carolina. He seemed to really like everything they're doing, the energy that they have behind that program, the defensive line coach over there. His name is escaping me now, but I know he played in the NFL. Travion Robertson, has really made a big impression on him. He talked about his experience, that he had, playing at South Carolina, but then also playing at the next level. And he just seems like he's really connected with that program. And like you said, him and Michael Smith are really close. And, you look on the map and you think Savannah's way far away from Columbia. I did some research while I was standing there with him. Like, oh, wow, this is not far from home for you. So
That's right.
I think that's a program that, is really going to be in it. Another program that kind of popped up while we were talking was Clemson.
Yeah.
Clemson's right. South Carolina's not far from Clemson. So, that's another program that I'm watching too, just because for one, the culture, Coach Eason really has his ear over there as well. When I got there, he practiced that day in Clemson gear. So he had a Clemson shirt with Clemson shorts, Clemson gloves. So that's a program that's really emerged, especially because they don't offer a lot of guys. So that's another program that I could see him getting to and getting to campus maybe a couple times this fall.
So if you look at the top 5 players in the state of Georgia for On3, you look at Elijah Griffin, obviously he's number 1, a 5-star defensive lineman. You look at Schley County, Zayden Walker. You look at Justice Terry from Manchester, who is verbally committed to Georgia. You look at Elias Williams from Camden County, who's verbally committed to Georgia. And how do you pronounce the running back at Lee County?
Usman Chroma.
Usman Chroma. Here's what I'm getting at. Now, we've all followed recruiting for a long time. And I don't know the last time you've seen a top 5 that didn't have a player in it from Cobb County or Gwinnett County.
Yeah.
Look at this. Savannah, Ellaville, Manchester, Folkestone, and Leesburg. And let's be honest, that's the type of battles lately that Georgia has been winning. So not only are these talented football players, these are in areas that have been really, really good to Georgia. So I'm kind of interested to see how this thing plays out. Nothing slight. Here's the deal. You put Elijah Griffin into Gwinnett County, and, I mean, I can't even imagine the amount of coaches that would be at that school every single day they could be. Even Savannah, they're going to be highly recruited. But you put that kid in Metro Atlanta around all this media and all that stuff, it turns things up a notch.
Yeah, I think he's even flown under the radar from our standpoint a little bit, just because we don't see him as much.
Yeah,
I think we have him ranked number 2. I mean, it's hard to say a player that's number 2 in the country is underrated.
He's not really a national name. I get what you're saying. He's not a national name really outside of us.
Yeah,
absolutely. He should be.
Yeah, I mean, Elias Williams is the same way. I mean, he's another one that's kind of down there that we don't talk about very often. We don't see it nationally very often, but he's another really good football player. So I definitely agree with your point. Just it's crazy that you think about the top 5 in Georgia. None of them are in the Metro Atlanta area.
Very strange with that class. And I'll tell you this: the 25 class is loaded at premium positions. O-line, D-line, got wide receivers. Things that the state has been down for a little while. They're not down with D linemen, O linemen, and wide receivers in that class. Georgia has got to take advantage of this 25 class in state. They've got to be as heavy, in my opinion, as they've been in a while on in-state kids.
Yeah, I mean, Rusty, you nailed it, dude. When I saw that none of these guys are from Gwinnett, I was like, well, Georgia might actually get one of them.
That's where they've been winning the battles. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they've been winning those battles, and that's kind of the, I'll tell you this, Justice Terry from Manchester, I mean, he could be number 1 in a lot of states. I mean, I'm telling you, this 25 class is at the top is really, really, really good.
Jeremy, you also had a great piece on up on DawgsHQ, premium piece. Right now, 50% off an annual membership at DawgsHQ. You don't want to miss out on that, and $1 for a month as we kick off the season. A great special, and I know that won't be lasting too much longer. LJ McCray narrowing things down, and Georgia's in the mix here, but it seems to be a toss-up right now whether or not the Dogs are going to land him.
Yeah, I definitely felt that way talking to him. I didn't really get a sense that he was leaning one way or the other, and I think he's content in taking his time and making sure that he makes a good decision. Just kind of hearing what he had to say about Georgia and hearing how he carries himself. He definitely kind of has that, Kirby Smart in Georgia vibe about him, just because he's very businesslike, very thoughtful, very, thoughtful about how he approaches football. I think, and he basically said, I don't really care about playing early. I don't care what the depth chart looks like. I'm going somewhere to get developed, and I want to be a good football player 3-4 years from now. I mean, I don't hear a lot of guys say that.
Very much. Georgia may not get this kid, but it is a very similar, in my opinion, recruitment of Jordan Hall.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are heavily involved in this deal, and it's a young man from Jacksonville, Florida, and I don't think Jordan Hall really demanded that he needed to start. You know what I mean? I think that he's playing the long game, and I've heard it from more than one, and Jeremy kind of just backed that up. This kid's playing the long game. He's not worried about what he's going to get the first week he gets to the next college. He's looking at 3 years down the line and what type of player am I going to be leaving the program. So he's one of those, man, if Georgia gets him and we're able to stack Elijah Griffin in behind him,
yeah, that's
not good news for the rest of the country.